Hi, my name is Tamsin Butler. I'm the author of The Complete Guide to Personal Finance for Teenagers and College Students. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit about personal finance, managing your money, getting ready to head off to college, all those sorts of things, and to answer any questions you may have. So I'm just going to start giving you some information, and then whenever you're ready, go ahead and send me some questions, and I'll answer those for you. So first off, I'd like to speak to students who are getting ready to head off to college or who are thinking about going to college. I know you have a lot on your mind. I know that there seems to be a million things that you have to cover right now. But if you can get your head wrapped around personal finance and learn about managing your money and writing a budget and not using a credit card for every little thing, those are the sort of things that are going to help you not only throughout your college time, but also into adulthood. There are a ton of adults who still don't understand this and who do a little miserably with their money because they were never taught how to deal with their personal finances. So if you can learn this now, then you're going to be ahead of many adults. It'll help you because the more you can effectively manage your money, the less you have to scramble to try to get more money. So it's one less worry for you once you get it all covered and figured out before you head off to college and while you're in college. And for parents, I'd like to say if you have not yet talked to your kids about personal finance and how to manage money and all that sort of stuff, now's the time. The time was actually when they were quite young, but if you haven't done it yet, it's still not too late. Um, Here's a few tips that I use. I am pretty open with my kids about what our personal finance situation is. They understand that what happens when I use the debit card. They understand what happens when I use the credit card. They understand that we don't rush off and put things on credit just because we can. Just things like that. If you yourself have not done a very good job of managing your finances, that shouldn't stop you from teaching your kids about how to do so. Just because you might have some issues with your money doesn't mean that you can't teach the right way still. Um, so here's what I think that you should probably be teaching your kids about, and students, this is what you should strive to learn as best you can before you head to college. The first thing is just basic money management, understanding how much money comes in, how much money goes out. So for that sort of thing, you need a budget. And even if you don't have a full-time job, and even if you don't have regular bills, you still probably budget, even if you don't write it out or it's not in a computer program or on an app. In your mind, you're still budgeting. You're saying to yourself, okay, I have this much money. I know that I'm going to need to spend this much money where I'm going this weekend, so I can't spend it right now because I'm going to need it this weekend or something along those lines. That's budgeting. A formal budget where it's actually written out or put in a computer program or on an app just helps keep you accountable, and it helps you to see where your money's going and where your money should be going. And so for the beginning, what I think is a good idea, because budgets are always changing, and especially when you first start with your budget, it's going to take a little while to get used to it. So I suggest just in the beginning tracking your spending. Parents, you can help your students with this, or you can do it together. Track your spending. Start out with this is how much money I have, and here's where I've spent it. And every time you spend some money, you just mark it in that budget, and you start to see where your money goes. Sometimes you might be surprised at where your money's going. It may seem like you get money one day and the next day it's gone. Well, if you keep a running tally of where your money's going, it's not so much of a mystery anymore. And then you can also start making changes to how you spend your money depending on what you find your needs are. So if you find that you are perpetually lacking the $40 you need every other Saturday for your event that you go to, or whatever it may be, then you look at your budget and you think to yourself, well, how can I spend 40 less dollars every other week so that I can do this without finding myself out of money all the time? Those are the sort of things that you need to do for your budget. Now, I know it sounds boring, I know it does, But once you get into it and once you start doing it, it just becomes second nature. You start to know in your mind, oh, this is how much my budget is. This is how much money I have set aside for entertainment. This is how much I have set aside to pay for gas for my car, and so on. And once you can do that, then you'll find that you start to manage your money a lot more effectively. You can find lots of great budgeting apps and spreadsheets and all sorts of things. Have a look at some of them and see which one you prefer, because really you want to make it as painless as possible so it's not something you avoid. So parents and students try to work together to figure out how to get a budget going. Your budget, like I said, it's going to change over and over, but it'll get to the point to where instead of major overhaul of your budget from month to month, it's just going to be little tweaks that where you're fixing this or moving this money around or whatever. It's a process that takes a while, so don't expect to be straight on budget from the very get-go. It'll take a few months to start to figure out, okay, this is how much I have coming in, this is how much I have going out. Of course, your budget will change as you have more income if you get a job, or if you have more expenses, like when you head off to college. Just remember that it's important to just keep track of where your money's going, how you spend it, those sort of things. Okay. I also wanted to make sure that everybody's aware that one of your first stops when it comes to paying for college should be at the website fafsa.gov, FAFSA, and that is where you start everything. Even if you're pretty sure in your mind, oh, there's no way that I can qualify for any sort of financial aid based on the income of my parents or whatever it is, you still have to start there. So even if you're going to rely on student loans, which I don't advise, and we'll talk about that later, but even if you're going to do that, you have to start there. That's where you start. That's where a lot of your questions will be answered when it comes to things like financial aid, how much your parents' income affects, how much you're eligible for, those sorts of things. It's all on that website. The financial aid office at whatever college it is you've chosen, that they can also help you too. And there may be people at your school that you're attending now, if you're in high school, who can also help you along with this sort of thing. But it depends on your school if they have people available for that. But use all the resources that are available to you. Utilize them, because college is really expensive. So any ways you can find to get some help financially, you should do it. So again, even if you feel like there's no way that you're going to qualify for any financial aid, still go to that website. Again, that's fafsa.gov. Fill out the information and go ahead and send it in there, because you never know, you might be eligible for something that you don't even realize you're eligible for. So that's for financial aid. And also scholarships. Oh, there's so many scholarships out there, and they're not all academically based either. Some of them are based on your ethnicity, some are based on if your parents are veterans or not, based on what your parents do for a living, what field of study you intend on going to, all sorts of things. There's a lot of different ways to look for scholarships, and again, I encourage heartily looking into scholarships, because basically it's free money. So, it's worth the time to look into. Your financial aid office can help you with that. Some of that stuff is also on that FAFSA website I told you about, but I'm trying to think of what the U.S. Department of Labor has a website that also lists all sorts of scholarships, and it has this really great tool where you put in what state you live in and any sort of special things about you that might make you more eligible than others, and it matches you up for different scholarships. So, get ready to apply for a bunch of scholarships. Pay attention to deadlines for both that and the FAFSA, because if you miss a deadline, then you're missing out on potentially free money. Let's see. Let me grab my notes. Okay, let's talk real quick about student loans. Okay. You hear a lot about student loans. You hear a lot about people saying, well, I'm going to college, so I'm going to have a bunch of student loans. Okay, people do go to college without incurring student loan debt. It is possible. It takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of different tricks of the trade, but you can go without a loan. It depends on a lot of things, though. It depends on, the field of study you're going to go into, because some are a lot more expensive than others. It depends on what type of school you're going to. It depends on how much money your parents plan on helping you with, or if they've already been saving in a 529 or some other account for you. So before you go and just automatically assume that you're going to need a loan, first get that budget figured out. Figure out how much it's going to cost you to go to school, and not just the tuition and the books and the lab fees, but also, to eat. And if you're going to live outside of the home where your parents live, how much it's going to cost you to rent and your utilities and all those things. Um, Figure out your budget, and if you find there's a big deficit there where you're like, well, I just can't cover this myself, then it's time to wonder if maybe it's time to increase your income, maybe find another job or a better paying job or a job for that matter. Um, you can also look into going part-time instead of full-time. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do if your main idea is to avoid loans. Now, why do we care about avoiding loans? Well, there's a few reasons. Because first off, when you borrow that money, it has to be paid back, obviously. And with some of the loans, you never have to make a payment until you graduate. So in your mind, you know you're taking out these loans and you're using this money, but all of a sudden you graduate and you're like, yay, I get to go get a job. And then all of a sudden you get this bill in the mail that says, well, here's how much you owe us and here's how much you need to start paying now that you've graduated. And it's this number that's just ridiculous. Graduating from college and starting your adult life with this just cloud of debt over you can be really overwhelming. It can make you make decisions that you wouldn't otherwise. You might take a job that you don't really want to take just because you're thinking to yourself, oh, I got to pay these student loans, so I guess I better take whatever job comes to me. Um, I think I think I wrote this down actually. Let me make sure that I give you the right information. Yeah, CNN said that the average college graduate is graduating with about $30,000 in student loan debt. That's a lot of money. It says that 7 in 10 seniors, according to CNN, have student loan debt. Just because everybody else is getting student loans doesn't mean that you have to. You be creative. Think of different ways that you can try to avoid that. Now, if you do need a student loan, then I suggest first looking into the student loans that may be offered to you through after you submit your application with FAFSA, because those are going to be some subsidized loans that are going to have low interest rates and deferment options for when you graduate if you're not able to pay yet. If you excuse me, if you go get private loans, you're going to find that the interest rates are probably going to be higher. These are student loans like directly from a financial institution, like a bank or something. The interest rates are going to be a little higher, and they're not going to have as liberal repayment options. A lot of people get the private student loans because they've either maxed out the subsidized loans, or for whatever reason they're not eligible for those loans or something. So it's good that those private loans are there, but they should not be your first choice. Let's see. I see there's a couple questions coming in, so let me just address those real quick. Let me have a look. Let me read this real quick. Okay, is it true the more you save, the less financial aid you get? That depends. It depends on how the money is saved, honestly. I would talk to well, I don't know if you're a student or a parent, but it depends on how the money was saved. It also depends on the parent's assets and income. Mostly income. Income is the biggest deal. If you're saving for your kids in a 529 or like a state-sponsored tuition program or something like that, that's not going to have as much of an effect on your financial aid as it will if you have a high-paying job, you have a good income. The financial aid folks are going to look at parental income, and if they determine that the parents can financially afford to pay for college, then there's not going to be any financial aid. I don't think that the fear of not getting financial aid That should never deter parents from putting money away for their kids for college. Parents should start saving for their kids just right off the bat as soon as you can, even if it's only $20 a month when they're still in diapers. You know, if you can, let compound interest work in your favor. Um, don't don't not save because you're afraid that they're not going to get financial aid down the road. So really, the biggest concern with the financial aid would be the parental income is much more important than um, the savings that are earmarked for education or any other savings for that matter. Okay, here's another one. What would be a good starting job if you plan on starting with community college? I suggest first off, check with the community college and see if they have any work study programs or any jobs there on the campus. Not only because it'll be easy to work there since you're already going there for school, but it's great for networking if you can start to get to know all the instructors and the administrators and stuff. I mean, you can't beat networking when it comes to that sort of thing. So um, look at work study. Also, if you have a field of study set, like say you're going into early childhood education, just as an example, then I would look for a job that has something to do with that, even if it's working in a daycare or working as a paraprofessional in one of the schools or something like that. Um, Try to find something that somewhat pertains to what you want to study and what you want to eventually do for a living. And of course, try to find something that's going to pay you well and isn't going to crush your soul while you're doing it. So sometimes jobs can be hard to come by, and sometimes you just have to take whichever job is there. But I mean, if you can be a little choosy, get something within your field. Okay. Let's see. There's many questions. Let's do some more questions. I know. There's a bunch of them. Okay. If my parents are divorced, which income matters when applying? I think that has to do, okay, I'm not a lawyer, so if, let's take this all with a grain of salt, but I think it has to do with custody or something along those lines, whichever parent is responsible for you. However, I am nearly certain, but verify this because, like I said, I'm not an attorney. I'm nearly certain that both parents are going to be taken into consideration unless there's some reason why they shouldn't, like it's a custody thing or something. Again, please double check on that because I don't want to give you the wrong information with that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about um, well, debt. We talked about the student loans, but let's talk about, credit cards and things like that. Now you might be wondering, should I go get a credit card when I head off to college? Or parents, you might be wondering, should I give my kid a credit card for emergencies or anything like that? Okay, I'm not against parents giving a credit card to their kids um, for emergency use. I I don't endorse giving a student a credit card that is your credit card, making them a authorized user on it, and then just saying, okay, enjoy, because they're not they're not learning anything, and you're probably going to wind up with a hefty bill. Um, if possible, before the students head off to college, they should already know about budgeting and all that sort of thing, and they should already have their own debit card that's linked to a checking account that they already have, that they already know how to manage. And don't freak out if you don't know all this stuff yet and college is just around the corner. I mean, you'll learn this as best you can and do as best you can, and there is a learning curve when it comes to managing your money. But a credit card for emergencies, as long as the student knows that it's only for emergencies, as long as the parents keep tabs on what's going on with that credit card, so you're going to check it actively and maybe set up some alerts that let you know when it's being used. Also, there needs to be an expectation set as to, okay, if you use this for emergencies, are we as parents going to then pay it, or are you going to pay it, or are you going to pay us back in installments? All these things need to be figured out beforehand. Don't just hand them a card and say this is for emergencies, go enjoy college. You need to know what the expectation is. But yeah, parents, monitor that card. make sure it is being used only for emergencies. And if at some point the student wants to start using it for other things, well, that's where a debit card comes in. That's where they can use the debit card for purchases, because sometimes using cash is a hassle, and some merchants don't even accept cash anymore. So, but there's lots of options for that. Don't rush into getting a credit card. Um, Years ago, college students were a big target for credit cards. And there'd be booths set up on campuses where they'd say, get a free t-shirt by applying for this credit card. And next thing they know, they've got a t-shirt and then there's a credit card in the mail and they don't know what they're doing with it. And nobody ever taught them how to handle credit. Those things don't happen quite as much anymore. The laws regarding marketing to college students with for credit and things like that changed around 2010, so you're not going to see as much of that. You might find that some financial institutions may try to encourage you to ask your parents to co-sign with you so that you can have a credit card. Co-signing is a interesting and potentially dangerous situation where the parents are equally responsible for the bill. So say a student gets a credit card and it's not just for emergencies, it's for just daily purchases. And if they go a little cuckoo with the card and then forget to make a payment or something, well, that's going to show up on the parent's credit report as well as the student's credit report. So should you co-sign? I don't think so. But I mean, you know your student better than anybody else. You know what they're capable of. And if you've set them up to where they understand, when to use a credit card, when to use a debit card, how to pay their bills, how to not carry a balance. If you've taken the time to teach them that and you feel like they're ready for it and you don't mind having another account on your credit report, then I mean, you can co-sign if you'd like to. Let's look at some more questions. Hang on a sec. Okay. I didn't save for my child's college, so what can I do now? Okay, well, if you did not, if you did not yet save for your student's college education, and they're getting ready to apply or head off or anything like that, um, I mean, it depends on your financial situation. If you're in a financial situation where you can, out of pocket, help them and help pay for school and stuff, and it's not going to harm you financially, then, by all means, offer them some help. I mean, it's expensive. I mean, I'm all for, making your own way through as best you can, but boy, if somebody can help you, it's fantastic. Now, don't go into massive debt trying to help your student. Remember that as parents, we are much closer to retirement than our children are, and we have to keep that in mind. Yes, it's important for our students to get a great education and to get a college degree, but it's also important for parents to save money for their retirement and to make sure that they don't go into retirement with a bunch of debt. Now, there are some student loans where the only way that the student is eligible is if the parents co-sign with them. And these are products that are offered, and I'm not saying I'm completely against them, but I do think that they are not a first choice. A lot of people use these when they're not eligible for financial aid based on the income of the parents, then the parents will turn around and co-sign on a loan. But remember that if your student then decides that, hey, college isn't for me, I don't want to go to college anymore, walks away from the education and walks away from the bills, that bill is yours. So be sure that you're okay with taking on that responsibility. So you do have a few options. And of course, helping your kids to understand how to manage their money. Maybe letting them still live in the house while they attend college. I mean, there's little things you can do that are going to make a big difference. Um, if you hadn't saved at all, one penny, just accept it and move on and see what you can do now. Okay. Just be a good supporter, and don't allow your students to feel as though college is off limits to them just because they don't have a big fat college fund sitting somewhere. I mean, there's people who have done it. Um, my parents saved no money for my college education, and I still managed to get it done and didn't take out a single loan. So it's exhausting, but you can do it. Okay, let's see, more questions. Okay, does the student need to learn about credit reports beforehand? Okay, yeah, credit reports, there's a history of you. There's three major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And they record all of your credit information. Anything that you had to supply a social security number in order to apply for, it's going to show up on your credit report. So, why are credit reports a big deal? Because those are what are used when you go and apply for credit later on. Car loans, credit cards, mortgage loans, student loans, all these things. They're going to look at your credit report. Now, if you don't have credit right now, it's really not a big deal. Um, you're as long as you're not looking to go get a bunch of credit, if you're just heading off to college, nobody really expects you to have credit right now. Um, but credit reports are something that you want to not only try to um, keep clean, but you want to monitor them as well. You may have heard of identity theft and things like that. If somebody steals your identity and they start opening accounts in your name, I mean, these things all show up on your credit report, and it can be a big deal. Even if you tell yourself, well, I'm never going to have credit. I never want a credit card, and I'm going to live off the grid, and all that. That's great. However, other people pull your credit report as well. Potential employers, especially if you're going to work in the financial sector, you may be denied for a job based on your credit report. Not for lack of credit, but if there's issues on it. Not only errors, but say you get a credit card and then you don't pay it. And then you just think it's going to go away. It doesn't go away. It's on your credit report for several years. So yeah, your potential landlords might pull your credit report. Like if you go to get an apartment, they're going to pull your credit report. And if your credit report has some bad stuff on it, they might deny you residence there. Or even car insurance companies, when they're going to see how much they're going to charge you for car insurance, which when you're a young student, it's already going to be a lot. But if you have some sort of credit issues, they could charge you even more. So what you need to know about your credit report is that everything you do with your credit is documented and held on a historical document that is going to be referenced by potential lenders, potential employers, all those sorts of people. And you want to make sure that you look at your credit report once a year. There's, I don't remember the actual name of the website, so I'm not going to give you one because there's a lot that are really similar but are not the same thing. But there's a government website that offers you an annual credit report for free, and you can take a look and see what's on there, and if you realize that there's stuff on there that isn't supposed to be on there, you can contact them and tell them it's an error, and they'll open an investigation and get it all figured out for you. And if you have had some credit and it's gone delinquent or something along those lines, when you check your credit report, you'll see it there, and there'll be contact information where you can get in contact with them and get that all figured out. But that's probably down the road for many of you. If you're, 16 or 17 and you're heading off to college, it's likely you don't have any credit. And again, there's no big rush. You don't need any credit right now, okay? Concentrate on being a student and don't worry so much about building up your credit. But do know that when you become an adult and you start having credit and all those sorts of things, you do need to check your credit report annually to make sure that there's nothing phony on there. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions. Hang on. Oh yeah, and that question is very similar to what I just talked about. Should I start trying to get credit right now? Yeah, there's no rush. I mean, honestly, there's not. When you get your first full-time job after you graduate, you're going to have plenty of opportunities to get credit. And sure, it's a little difficult to get credit in the beginning, um, but if you do it right, then it's not going to be a big deal. Okay, here's another one. What would a checking account do? Okay, well, a checking account is a deposit account where you put some money. Oftentimes there's no interest earned on it, but it depends on the financial institution. But it's a safe place for you to put your money. So if you have a part-time job, or if your parents are going to help you out financially and need somewhere to be able to put the money, a checking account is great. You get two things with your checking account. You get some checks, and you'll also get a debit card. And the debit card allows you to access your money um, typically without fees, as long as you use an ATM that's within the network, or if you just get cash back when you go make purchases at places like Target. A checking account is a fantastic idea for students who are getting ready to head off to college. As young as you can, start them out by understanding how the checking account works, because it's great for budgeting. You see the money coming in, you see the money going out, you see where your money's going, and is that really where you want to spend your money. Looking at your transaction register for your checking account gives you a very accurate representation of what kind of spender you are. You might notice that by the end of the week you say, wow, well, all my money's gone and I don't know what happened to it. Well, go look at where all your money came from your checking account. If you see, Starbucks, 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 then it might dawn on you that, oh, okay, well, I didn't realize I was stopping at Starbucks 3 times a day, and maybe I shouldn't be doing that. So, oh, hang on a second. Would you mind speaking up? I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be quiet. I'm not usually a quiet person. I hope this is better. I'm sorry about that. There we go. Okay, so a checking account is something that, when managed effectively, it's a really great tool to help you stay on budget. I hope this is louder. And so that's why I advise that parents, either help set up a checking account for your student before they head off, or you could even allow them to see how yours goes. I mean, I know, oh good, I'm glad it's louder, thank you. Yeah, some parents are really apprehensive to show the family's finances to their students. They may be embarrassed because there's not as much money in the account as they'd like, or maybe they're afraid to, show that they accidentally overdrew their account or something. I mean, these are mistakes that a lot of people make, and if you can show them to your student and say, well, this was a mistake, this was something I should not have done. I mean, there is no shame in showing that to your students. Show them how it works. Show them, okay, well, I just got paid from my job, so here you see it in the account register, or you see it here on the screen. I got paid. Here's the bills I know I have to pay, and I have them coming out automatically, so I've marked it on there. And then here's how much money I have left. I put this much into savings, this one goes into your college plan, and here's the money I have to enjoy myself this week, or whatever, Don't be apprehensive about allowing your students, especially your older students, into that world to see what the family finances are like, because that's honestly one of the best ways that they're going to learn. I mean, think about when you're teaching your kids how to do the dishes. I mean, you're not going to show them how to, or tell them to go load the dishwasher, but not show them how to do it, And then as they get older, then they're ready for taking it on their own, just like they would be with a checking account. Okay, let's have a look. I heard that some people receive alerts when they have a low amount of money on their account. Yes, that's offered by a lot of financial institutions. I think that's a really valuable tool for people who are not accustomed to managing their money. Again, as you keep going with running your finances, you'll find that you start to understand how much money is in your account, how much available balance you have, that sort of thing. You'll have a running tally in your head. But for people who are somewhat new to running their money, or for people who maybe are just kind of just not so good at keeping track of things, that's the sort of thing that you want. I've seen some where they'll send a text straight to your phone with a low balance warning. Some will do emails. I don't think any send letters. That would take too long anyhow. But if it's your first account or if it's just something you would like, check with your financial institution to see if that's something that they offer, because sometimes you might think you have more in your account than you actually do, and then the next thing you know, you have $2 and a lot of the week left. So that's a really good suggestion. Yeah, take advantage of all the things that financial institutions offer to you. Many of them have accounts that are specific to college students or people who are not yet adults. So many of those have fewer fees or no fees. And I think that, in the beginning, just make sure that that account is actually advantageous as opposed to the other accounts. Um, but do check it out and see what they have. Okay. And one more question. I hope I'm being loud enough. Okay. Hello, I am a junior in high school and I don't have any college savings. I don't know if I should get a job. Should I only rely on scholarships and financial aid? I'm worried I'll have a lot of debt. Okay. Well, if you can get a job, I suggest getting a job because not only does that bring in an income, but it also helps with just job experience in general. So when you go off to try to get an internship or to actually get, your full-time career, they're going to know that you've worked before. So try to get a job if you can. Now I understand there's some people who either it's just not going to work because of where they live, there's no jobs, or because their academic schedule is so tedious. If that's the case, then I understand. Um, Relying on scholarships and financial aid, if you qualify for enough scholarships and financial aid to pay your way, then by all means take advantage of those things. Scholarships are free money. You don't have to pay that back. And a lot of times you don't even have to tell them how you're spending that money. So scholarships, yes, absolutely. Financial aid, yes, get as much financial aid as possible. If you're in financial need, you'll find there's lots of things that are out there to help you. And the worry that you'll have a lot of debt, I mean, it's a valid worry. Going to college is expensive, and I mean, just living is expensive. So you add to that you're paying to go to college, and um, it's a valid worry about the debt. My suggestion to you is that you find the best ways you can to cut your costs. The scholarships, the financial aid, things like that, where they're going to help pay for your tuition and your books and those sorts of things. Grab those as much as you can. If you do need a student loan, then I suggest that you only take what you actually need. A lot of times they're going to offer you more than what you think you need, even sometimes $1,000 more, thousands of dollars more. So you think to yourself, well, that's great. I'll just, I'll save it and use it next. No, you won't. The problem is that people are saying yes to more money than they should. Just because they tell you you're eligible for a certain amount does not mean that you should accept that full amount. Figure out beforehand how much you actually need, and that means to pay for your tuition, your books. If you don't have a job, then your living expenses and things like that. But not like living it up living expenses. Like I'm a serious college student and I'm only going to spend money when I need to living expenses. So if you do graduate with some student loan, but it was necessary because that was the only way that you could do it, then that's fine. Then just, start paying it off once you graduate and you get your great job. It's far better than going into school without a plan, accepting every penny that they're willing to loan you on a student loan, and then all of a sudden you've graduated and you have $30,000 of debt and you don't know what to do with yourself. So it's good that you're thinking ahead. It's good that you are considering that you don't want to have a lot of debt. So, good for you. And keep that in mind and just be proactive and think about those things. You're welcome. It said thank you so much. You're welcome. Okay. Well, that's all the time that I have. But I would like to thank everybody, and if you have any additional questions for me, just send me a note on Twitter or through my website, tamsenbutler.com, or Twitter is just tamsenbutler. I'm always happy to help, and it's an exciting time. So parents, good luck as you prepare to send your students off, and students, good luck as you go and conquer the world. So enjoy.